So Neace has made a lot of very interesting and unique ways of fixing ranked and fixing matchmaking that not a lot of other people have talked about. And there's a really good point that Neace makes is that nobody takes things that he says seriously on this topic and gives him a real fair shake. Just because people say, oh, this is just cope for Neace being low elo. And I think that's completely true, and that nobody's actually taking any of these ideas that Neace says seriously. So I would like to actually do that and go over actual pros and cons about his potential proposed solutions to ranked, and a couple other ones that I've seen kind of floating around, and actually give a real merit and a real conversation on the pros and cons about these things. So first off, we've got the biggest one that Neace talks about, which is the hard reset of the ladder. And talked about this being a full hard reset where everybody starts at like gold or silver or something. But then has recently kind of made it to where there's 2 resets. So if you're above plat, everybody goes back down to plat. And if you are like high gold, everybody goes back down to iron and bronze. Everybody. No exceptions. And the reasons, the pros for this is that everybody starts at an even playing field. And all of these accounts that have been stuck in higher elos, what Neace calls the diamond graveyard, of thousands and thousands and thousands of accounts that are in high elo that anybody can just kind of randomly play on, and they don't really belong in those games anymore. And so a hard reset of the ladder makes it to where like everybody is kind of earning the rank that they're going to be doing the entire time. And the problem that's talked about with this is that, hey, like, challenger players, TF Blade is going to be playing with all these plat players forever, or for a while. And the counter to that, and that Neace kind of brings up, is that this is only going to happen for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden everything it's going to fix itself out pretty quickly. Problem is that not everybody plays ranked at the same time. Not everybody plays ranked at season start. And that means that people are going to be constantly drip feeding in to ranked. So it's not just that all of the high elo players, Masters Plus players that are playing in these Platinum elo games, it's not just that they are playing in those games for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden they climb up. It's that some people are going to start at January, some people are going to start at February, some people are going to start at March, some people are going to start at April, some people are going to start halfway through the season. So you're going to continuously get a drip feed of these players that don't belong in your games. Whether it is a Masters Plus player or it's just a D2 player. Because a D2 player will still, like, mog any kind of plat game that's happening. So that's the problem, is that it's not going to be something that will fix itself overnight or within a month. It will ruin the integrity of the ladder for years. Because not everybody plays ranked right away. And so you're constantly going to be seeing very high variance in your games, especially around that level, forever. And also just all of the work that people kind of put into their accounts, it all kind of has to go to something that they would just have to be completely doing over again. Which is like, if I am maintaining a challenger account, and then all of a sudden I have to go back down to plat, and then I have to play 100, 200 games to get back to those high quality games, especially if I'm starting around like March or May, once all of the other challenger players are out, I have to play against plat players. Like, it's such a low quality game playing in plat when you're so used to playing in higher quality games, and you also just have to play differently. Whereas like if you're climbing up a new account, you can kind of like get the vibe for that, but a lot of people will just quit the game. The one thing that Riot recently did that could make a hard reset better is they made it faster to get to your rank, which would be a benefit in favor of a hard reset, but it still would just be years and years and years before this the ladder actually kind of levels itself out and everybody is back to their true elo. Because not everybody starts the game in January. A lot of people just refuse to play at the beginning of the season because it's so high variable already with a soft reset. And with the hard reset, the ladder is going to be so much more variable, and it's going to be like Smurf Q was, which if you don't know with Smurf Q, there were people in Smurf Q who were actual Smurfs, and there are people in Smurf Q who were people who were coming back to the game who just had decayed LP. So the problem was is that there were actual human beings, actual Smurfs, and then players who were actually at the elo that they belonged on their main. And the problem with that is that Smurf Q was almost decided by which team had more human beings or which team had more Smurfs, which is going to be very similar to how it is, especially if you're playing on that kind of bordering range. Like, even right now, if you're playing on that range of where everybody gets inserted in a ranked right now, it'll be a lot harder for you to actually play. And so, overall, like, a hard reset on the ladder probably is just going to do a lot more harm than it is good. Because it will not fix itself within 2 months like what Neace says that it will. It won't be in 2 weeks. It'll be for the entire season, for more than a season. But this other change is something that, in congruence with the other one, would hypothetically fix itself out of, if people aren't playing from January to March, all of a sudden now they have to play 20 games. So that whole drip feed thing isn't really well, there's another barrier that comes through that drip feed. Where not only do you not play from January to March, now you have to play 20 games of normals to finally start playing ranked. And the benefits of this are that it gets rid of a lot of those inactive Smurf accounts, because people aren't going to be willing to play those games. So, with regards to Smurf accounts, that does get rid of a lot of those inactive accounts in the Diamond Graveyard that haven't played in 2 seasons but still somehow have like a D2 MMR. That is the benefit of this. The problem is that the more barriers that you make for ranked, the infinitely less people will actually be willing to play ranked. Right now, all you gotta be is over level 30 and have 20 champions. That's all you need. The more barriers you add to ranked, the less people you're going to have to play it. Because this change, sure, it's great for Smurf accounts, but it's just terrible if you are a player who doesn't play League 24 hours a day every day. Like, if you are just a normal human being, a normal average Joe, who wants to take a 3-month break from League to play Path of Exile or play Dark and Darker or something, all of a sudden now you have to play a bunch of normals to finally start playing ranked with your buddy again. And you're probably just not going to play ranked. Like, if you are a League player who, let's say you're like Plat, and you kind of play the game casually and like you're Plat, you're decent, you know? And then you stop playing ranked for a bit, you find something else to do. You get into a hobby, you get into another game, something. And then all of a sudden your buddy, your coworker, is like, hey, you want a duo? And it's like, sure. Oh wait, I can't duo because I have to play 50 games of ranked before we can actually duo. Let's play something else. So the more barriers you take to ranked, this alone would kill the player base. Because the accounts of people who actually take a break and don't play League for a living 24/7, it's just going to get rid of all of them. This affects the normal player's approach to the game way more than it does Smurf accounts. Like, a Smurf can just play a game a day, a game every couple months, just like how the Diamond demotion works. Play a game a month, do something small like that, and then you can maintain these Smurfs to be able to be playable. Whereas this would not be something that a normal player on their main account would be willing to do. And then, like, a lot of people just don't want to play normal games. Like, they're just not going to take this mark, and they're just going to say, hey, let's play another game. Let's go play Dark and Darker, which is an amazing game, by the way. So, it would more heavily impact real, regular people who have one account than it would Smurfs. And this is also very similar to this common idea that not necessarily Neace has made, but other people have made, which is mastery requirements for rank. And the benefit of mastery requirements for rank is that people don't first-time champions in ranked. That sounds pretty good. Like, no. People don't like people first-timing champions in ranked. That's something that we shouldn't strive to have. Problem with this is that it is a infinitely higher barrier to actually entering ranked Because, let's say it's Mastery 4. You need Mastery 4 on a champion to bring them into Ranked. Problem is, you have to have 20 champions that are Mastery 4 or above. Because you need to have 20 champions to play Ranked. And that's not just some arbitrary thing that Riot has created of, oh, you need to buy our stuff to play Ranked. It's that if you have 10 unique bans on each team, and your last pick, and then everybody picks the things that you pick, all of a sudden you have no champions to play in Ranked. You need the minimum of 20 champions to be able to always have a champion to play in Ranked. Because otherwise, everybody could just pick what you play. Like, if you have 2 champions, like, your Zed and Talon get banned out, all of a sudden, you have literally no champions to play. So, this is another thing of the more barriers that you increase for rank, this barrier would cut the player base by 100%, honestly. Like, everybody would just quit League at this point. Because with this, most people don't want to play 20 champions for 30 games, right? So, most people only want to play 5 champions, and that's perfectly okay. 5 champions is a great pool to have. And then you have, like, Malphite and Soraka and Sona and all of these things that you can play if you're autofilled. Like, this is probably the worst change that I've ever had for League ever. Or I've ever seen for League ever. So, let's go over to the next change, which is Riot accounts. Start in Masters. This is already something that happens. So the thing with Riot accounts, right, is that, one, a lot of people are given Riot accounts that start at Silver MMR, which is just basically a fresh level 30. A lot of these people that Neace is talking about getting, climbing Korea with a Riot account, like Tyler 1. Tyler 1 started at Silver. A lot of these streamers started at Silver. Riot accounts are only given to... Riot accounts with the special MMR are only given to, like, super pros. And people who are actively playing the game at a professional level. These aren't given to random streamers. And the Riot accounts that are given to streamers, like, Neace got a Riot account. His Riot account started at Silver. And so the way that Riot accounts work is that when you have a fresh account, you have an uncertainty in your MMR. So you can have wild, drastic, dramatic gains, or you can have wild, dramatic losses. Your Riot hasn't figured out what that account belongs at rank-wise, so it's giving you these wild abilities to climb really rapidly or decline really rapidly. So Riot accounts are Diamond 1 starting MMR, and then they have the new account uncertainty where, like, I just did a Smurf, and I'm in Diamond 1 Masters games, and I'm still gaining plus 28 and minus 5. And if you are a Challenger level player, and you're Smurfing as hard as I am on a fresh account, you are Diamond 1 start, and then you're winning 80% of games, you're still gaining those plus 28 minus 5. If you are somebody who's given one of these special Riot accounts, and you're losing more games than you're winning in D1, you are not climbing. Like, you're not going to climb to Challenger on one of these Riot accounts unless you actually deserve it. Because you still ultimately have to win games against Challenger players. And the other angle of no spots on the ladder, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. That is a potential thing that could be viable. Riot accounts they're perfectly fine, and they basically already do what Neace is saying that they do. But making them not have a spot on the ladder or giving them a sort of a special case is something that's totally viable, and I wouldn't really have any issue with that. Doesn't really seem like it would actually be that bad. Although, a lot of pros do care about their solo queue ladder spot, and so this would just de-incentivize a lot of players to actually play on the ladder, because they'd be set up with, oh, this account isn't actually real, so I'm not going to play on this account. So a lot of people wouldn't play on Riot accounts. And this is actually a cope that TF Blade had. When he went to Korea, he got ranked 3 on the ladder. And he said that the 2 accounts above me are Riot accounts. And so it was actually impossible for me to hit rank 1. And then 2 weeks later, Showmaker hits rank 1 on a non-Riot account. Or not Showmaker, somebody else. Somebody else hit rank 1 on a non-Riot account that was starting from real MMR. And so, like, Riot accounts also don't affect you at all. At all, unless you are Masters Plus. Riot accounts are only relevant if you're looking to climb to a specific spot on the top of the challenger ladder. Otherwise, they don't really mean anything at all. They are relevant for Dopa. They're not relevant for anybody in D1 and below. Like, Neace has probably never played against a Riot account ever. And so, going on to the next point, it's actually right here. So, no duos in Plat Plus. Thing with this is that, yeah, duos are something that ruin the integrity of the ranked ladder. So, generally, duos are something where it is not your skill level, but the average skill level between you and your duo. So if your duo is, like back when duo used to exist in Masters Plus, if you are a Grandmasters 200 LP player, and your duo is a Challenger 1K LP player, you average out at Challenger 600 LP. Like, that's what the average kind of works out as. And with that, like, after they removed Masters Plus and Duo, there were a lot less Lulu players in Challenger. Just kind of throwing that out there. But the thing with this is that Duo is something that ruins the integrity of the ladder, but it does significantly increase the fun aspect of the ladder. And a lot of people only play Duo in ranked. And so, if you get rid of the pool of all of the Duo exclusive players, all of a sudden you're cutting your player base by 20%, something like that. A lot of people just, like 80 carry mains, aren't willing to play... 80 carry mains are not willing to play without their favorite support. And so, especially with bot lane, you're going to get a lot less people who are playing bot lane in lower elos because they're not somebody who is willing to play solo and they can't duo. So there'd be a lot of different issues with that. And then also Riot has balanced the game based on trying to make every role be of equal pick rate. And so if all of a sudden you make it a lot less attractive for people in Diamond and below to play aided carry, to play support, then you're going to significantly be lowering the population of the player base. The more limitations you give to ranked, the less people you will have. And so no duo will technically give you a more rigorous ladder. But the way that I always said it about removing duo in Masters Plus is that duo Q in Masters Plus was something that ruined the integrity of the ladder. But it's also the only thing that was removing the integrity of the ladder that actually was fun. That improved the fun aspect of the ladder. Whereas win trading, boosting, all of these things that Riot has never actually addressed. Like, first season of Wild Rift, Riot banned every win trader. Every win trader was banned in the first season. There are people who have been win trading for years on the ranked ladder, hit rank 1 as a literal win trade account. Every game is blatantly win traded, they're not even trying to hide it. And they don't get banned. Riot has never once banned a single person for win trading that isn't Tarzaned. Tarzaned is the only person who's ever been banned for win trading, by the way. And it was him win trading a single game. Like, there was no evidence of him win trading anything else but one game. So, no duo is something that would increase the integrity of the ladder, but ruin the fun aspect, and significantly lower the player base. And the lower the player base is, the higher queue times are going to be, the more likely you are to get autofilled, and just the lower quality the ladder is going to be. So, like, I can see an argument for getting rid of duo, but that is an issue. And so, one thing that people would bring up is, like, there was this Reddit post of somebody who was a Diamond 4 player and they were able to abuse duo to get into Challenger. The only reason they were able to do that, of a new way to boost MMR, the only reason they were able to do that is because for a couple patches, there was something that was bugged, which was you weren't able to duo if you were above Apex tier. So later on last season, and after the most recent patch, I believe, if you are gold and you have a Masters Plus MMR, you can't duo. You cannot duo if you have a Masters Plus MMR. But there were a couple patches at the beginning of the season where you, like Dantes and TF Blade could duo. and they could be duoing in challenger games. And they would actually allow them to do that. That only existed for a couple patches, and that's something that Riot has removed. So if you aren't playing at Masters Plus, that is... Like, if you are Masters Plus MMR, you can't duo anymore. So you can't actually get to any kind of real rank like that anymore. Check box to choose not to be autofilled. Now, there's a couple things with this. So the benefits of this is that you can more or less always get your roll. You just have a little bit longer of a queue time. The problem is that everybody is going to choose this. 80% of players don't want to get autofilled, so nobody is going to get autofilled, and you're basically removing autofilled, where you always have to get your roll every time. And problem with this is that since everybody's going to choose it, queue times are going to go up, and you're going to have 18 people in queue, and nobody is queuing for support, and nobody can be filled. So we have 18 people in queue in the same MMR bracket, and no game is made. And so I think that a better change for this would actually be to go the complete opposite. Instead of making it to where you can never be autofilled, remove role select entirely. Now that's something that Riot can't really do, in that when Riot introduced role select to where you can queue up for a certain role, that allowed people like me to exist. A one trick who plays one role, two roles, and that's it. Whereas before role select was introduced, I was able to play like every role to a certain level. Whereas now my jungle is a lot worse because I don't have to play it. I maybe have to play a jungle game every once in 100 games, which is nothing significant. Whereas before, I might have to play jungle every 1 in 10 games. So I have to, by design, get a certain level of proficiency on each role. And because I have a level of proficiency on each role, I understand the game better. And I am a more overall well-rounded player. Role select allows one tricks to exist, which as a one trick, I mean, I don't think it's good for the game that I can just play Tryndamere 24/7. I would like it if I was forced to play AD carry more, if I was forced to play jungle more. That would be something that would be really nice in the game and would overall make everybody better, because people wouldn't have a one-dimensional view of the game that one tricking or one rolling allows. So I would actually go the exact opposite. And this change would just completely increase queue times. Can't dodge after ban phase. So dodging is obviously a problem. People dodge because it has absolutely no downside to do. You get a fake LP loss. And if anything, that LP loss increases your LP gains. So there's no incentive to not dodge. Especially if you have multiple accounts. You dodge once, 5 minutes, wait the 5 minutes, queue up, dodge twice, 30 minutes, go play a game on another account. Play that game, go back on your main, dodge again, 12-hour lockout. Okay, I'll just play on this other account for the rest of the time. Dodging doesn't actually matter. In terms of having any negative downsides that would make you not want to do it. So, the problem with not making you be able to dodge after ban phase is that there's no reason you'd want to dodge in ban phase. And the problem is that right now, there is absolutely no downside to dodging. But you could just make there be some downside to dodging that isn't just automatically lose a game. I think the better way of implementing this and making it to where people are less incentivized to dodge is give you a partial loss for dodging. So champion select is part of the game. It is part of League of Legends. And so you shouldn't lose a full game for dodging, but you should lose like half MMR or a third MMR. Let's say you lose a third of a game worth of MMR for dodging. Now all of a sudden that means, right now, if you have a 49% chance to win a game, dodge. There's no reason to ever play a game where you have less than a 50% chance to win. So in today's system, 49% chance, dodge. If you lose 1/3 of a game of MMR, all of a sudden that means that you have to have a 33.33%, repeating of course, chance of winning a game for it to be worth dodging. And that would, like, the odds of getting a 33% likelihood chance of winning, the odds of that game happening are next to zero. Like, if you understand how bell curves work, almost every game you play is within the 60 to 40% range. Going from 40% to 33%, like, there's basically, it's so hard to get to that level. So that alone would make it to where if you need to dodge, you can lose 1/3 of a game of LP. So you're not getting off scot-free, but you're not taking an entire loss. And I think that would be something that would dramatically lower the chance of dodging at all. And you wouldn't be having dodge queue, which is what you have right now. Like, right now, if I'm playing in Masters Plus, Grandmasters Plus, especially towards the end of the season, there's so many times where I go through 8 dodges before I actually get into a game. And then the one game that goes through is when the teams eventually just give up. And they're like, this game sucks, we're probably going to lose, but I'm just not going to dodge, I'm just going to play it on anyway. Yeah, no roll select also just had a massive benefit of just having way lower queue times, which is exactly something that, like, not dodging and stuff would counteract. And you also just get better players. And you get rid of one tricks, so everybody overall is much better off at the game. And this right here. A small difference in LP gained or lost depending on how well you played. Losing even a couple less when you're the MVP on a losing team full of injuries would be good. So this is basically saying, kind of have it like CSGO, where if you play really well, if you frag out and you lose, you don't lose as much as the guy who was the bottom fragger on your team, the worst person on your team. Problem with this is that League is not about KDA. League is not about the amount of CS you get. League is, the only goal in League is to kill the Nexus any way possible. And the problem with this is that you give people an incentive to climb that is something else aside from killing the Nexus. Now all of a sudden you have people who are gonna play like Reckless in a team fight, who's the Fnatic AD carry, who will, in a game, if he thinks that the fight might not be won, he'll just play on the backline and just play to not die, and then do 0 damage. Whereas the ideal play to actually win that game might be playing the AD carry, dishing out as much damage as possible, even though you know you're probably gonna die. Whereas if you make it to where all of a sudden KD matters, then you won't be able to climb. Or you won't be able to only think about the Nexus being killed, and you're putting in other factors in the game, whereas in CSGO, getting kills is, like, a very good parallel towards actually winning the game. In League, it's not. Like, there are so many different strategies. Like, you think about Baus, right? Baus FFS. If he existed in the system, he would win games and get so little LP. Even though his strategies are going to get the highest win rate, they might not have the best KDs or something like that, where there's so many ways to play the game that don't show up on the scoreboard, and all of those would be completely axed, and the game would be favoring people who play for KDA and not playing for actually winning the game. Because if you give a small little incentive, this is a reason why Riot didn't want achievements to be a thing forever, is that if you give people incentives in rank to play for something that is not killing the Nexus and winning the game, then all of a sudden people are going to be focusing on that instead of actually what is really important, which is winning the game. So the more incentives that you give for something that is not that is just going to be terrible, terrible for the game. I think that is about it. So overall, going a little bit down the list, hard reset would kind of ruin the ladder for years. This second change would make it way worse for regular players and wouldn't affect Smurfs as much. This change alone, the second change, would completely kill League. Just straight up. Like, anybody... The biggest problem with Smurf queue before, right, is that people who took a break from League, their LP would decay, but their MMR wouldn't. So because they have a disparity there, they get put into Smurf queue, and they get put into... If you are a returning player who took a 6-month break from League, you're getting put into the worst quality of games that exist possible. And generally, when somebody takes a break from a game for engagement, you want to put returning players into the highest quality game as possible, so that they're like, yeah, this game I got really fed. Like, oftentimes games will pair you against bots, in like Fortnite or PUBG. They'll pair you against bots so that you can feel good and like get some kills that are like, yeah, this is why I play the game. And then you slowly get reintroduced back into the game. Problem with this is that, yeah, it's just never going to actually affect Smurfs the same way as it will normal people. Right accounts, completely irrelevant if you are not below Masters. And no spot on the ladder, like, I could see an argument for that, but ultimately, it would kind of ruin a lot of the point. And it would just make people not want to play on Riot accounts. Right here, this sort of difference in how well you played affecting your LP gains. Not going to be really good because it's going to make you focus on other things. Mastery requirements would increase the amount of games you had to play for ranked by 20x. And then all of a sudden, nobody wants to play ranked. Because they don't have 20 champions to play, and they don't want to play Soraka for 50 games to have to play ranked. And so, can't dodge after ban phase. The change that I introduced to bans would probably just be a lot better. Not autofill. Just make it to where you can't choose your role. The problem with making it back to the way it was before Season 5 or something is that the ship's kind of already sailed, and that so many people are used to being one-tricks now that I'm not sure if you can kind of put the genie back in the bottle. But, like, that would be the best thing that Riot could do in the long term. It would hurt a lot when all of a sudden these one-tricks have to play other roles for a while. But that's one of the changes that would hurt a lot in the short term, but could be very beneficial in the long term. No duo plot plus. It's one of those things that will affect the game negatively, but actually increases the fun factor. And I would much rather have Riot deal with the other things that don't increase fun and ruin ranked integrity, like win trading, like boosting, like all of these things that are, like, so many people put so many work into proving that somebody is win trading. 100%. Always on the enemy team, the people run it down, like, have full documents of every single proof about why this one account is win trading, and then Riot doesn't do anything about it. But in Wild Rift, they do. Like, Wild Rift, so many positive changes for the game happen that just aren't really done here. So let me know what you guys think down below. What's going on, and do you have any ideas to fix rank that might not have been listed here? Biggest one that I would say is just add voice chat. Biggest problem with going from solo queue to competitive is that you have no experience actually communicating with the team and playing through voice chat. And the biggest reason why people are so frustrated with League is miscommunication. And miscommunication is a lot harder in voice chat because you're actually able to communicate more of your thoughts and give a lot more nuance to what you're thinking, so that even if a play goes bad, at least you guys were on the same page. Which, like, that's just the biggest reason why people get frustrated with League right now. And overall, I think that would just be the best change that Riot could possibly do. So let me know what you guys think down below. Nobody ever really gives Neace a fair shot in terms of actually looking at his proposed changes and really saying, is this a good change? Is this not? People just say, Neace bad, therefore everything that Neace says is bad. So I figured I would actually be somebody to properly elaborate on the pros and cons to a lot of Neace's proposed changes. So let me know what you guys think down below. See you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye and good night. Yeet!